Hello, I'm Liam Jenkins and welcome to highlights of the 2011 Formula SimRacing World Championship. Round 8 of the championship takes place in Canada, Montreal, at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Closely resembling a street circuit, this track features very little in the way of runoff areas, with the barriers running very close to the track. One of the shortest circuits on the calendar, the drivers will need to negotiate 70 laps for the Canadian Grand Prix. Qualifying saw Finnish driver Mikko Pymäläinen achieve his first ever World Championship pole position, snatching the top spot from Bono Huis by just over 100th of a second. Jarkko Mykkänen would start in third, making it a good result for the Precision Motorsports team. David Greco qualified in fourth, just ahead of Fredrik Nilsson in fifth, and Lee Morris set the sixth fastest time in his return to FSR. Reino Room made it inside the top 10 for the third time in a row, ahead of Patrick de Wit in eighth. Rasmus Tali also made the top 10 for only the second time this season, and Morgan Morand qualified in 10th. Dennis Hurl and John-Eric Saxon would make up the 6th row of the grid, and Ala Fort, now driving for GT Omega Racing, qualified in 13th. Pedro Mellin would start his World Championship debut in 14th place, ahead of Lucas Euler in 15th. To the race start, and it was de Wit who made the best start off the line. Pymäläinen held on to his place into turn 1, and Greco got up into third around the outside of Jarkko Mykkänen. De Wit was now up into 6th, and Room had dropped several places down the order. The field made it cleanly through the opening corners until Stefan Kanitz carried too much speed into the first chicane and lost his front wing on the barrier. Down the Casino straight, Bono Huis had a great run at Mikko Pymäläinen, and making it alongside the Mack Corp, there was little Pymäläinen could do to fend off the world champion. Further behind, Lucas Euler somehow missed his braking point, hitting the back of Ala Fort's car and doing some significant damage to both vehicles. There was also some unfortunate contact between Kirchhoff and Marconi, resulting in Giuseppe Marconi spinning and dizzily hitting the side of the faster than speed car. On the following lap, Pymäläinen took the defensive line against David Greco, but the Too Fast For You driver braked incredibly late, pulling off an amazing outside pass through the final chicane. Things went from bad to worse for Pymäläinen, losing out to Jarkko Mykkänen in the very next sector, again being outbraked by his rivals. Meanwhile, Lee Morris and Patrick de Wit, two drivers known for their aggressive nature on track, fought it out over 6th position, with Lee Morris eventually taking the place through the first corner. De Wit then lost out to Rasmus Tali, losing traction on the exit of the final chicane, dropping him into 8th place. After a strong start, it all went wrong for David Greco, with the Italian suffering his second electrical failure of the season and being forced to retire. It was also a bad day for Reino Room. The Estonian managed to pass Jim Parisis through the hairpin, but not realising that the Go Speed car was still alongside, he moved onto the driving line, causing contact, resulting in Room stalling his engine. In 9th position, John-Eric Saxon was searching for a way around Morgan Morand, but in the excitement he missed his braking point into the final chicane and instead opted to go across the gravel. In an attempt to avoid hitting the slow-moving Saxon, Atse Kirchhoff locked his brakes and spanned the car. The incident also helped Pedro Mellin to get close enough to pass his teammate Dennis Hurl on the following corner for 11th place. Meanwhile, Patrick de Wit was struggling to maintain position, losing 7th place to the ATR driver Morgan Morand. And further behind, Jim Parisis' race ended early, with the Greek driver spinning out of turn 2, hitting the wall and stalling his engine. In his typical style, Bono Huis was slowly but surely running away with the lead, with teammate Jarkko Mykkänen several seconds behind in second. But the Precision Motorsports crew revealed their strategy early on in the race, bringing Huis into the pit lane for what was obviously the first of 2 stops. Mykkänen also stopped 2 laps later, giving the lead back to Mikko Pymäläinen, with Fredrik Nilsson just behind. With Pymäläinen, Nilsson, Morris and Morand all on one-stop strategies, it was going to be hard work for Huis and Mykkänen to move back up through the field. It took 23 laps for the Wall of Champions to claim its first victim, with Atse Kirchhoff slamming into the famous barrier and losing his front wing. After emerging from the pits, the twisted driver was all the way back down in 14th place. It soon began to look like Huis' strategy was going to work. Within 8 laps of pitting, the Dutchman had already caught up to the back of Fredrik Nilsson and then passed him into the final chicane. On the following lap, Pymäläinen and Nilsson both pitted together. However, a problem with Nilsson's wheel resulted in his speed limiter failing to engage, and the twisted driver was served with a stop-and-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Pymäläinen emerged in 3rd place, behind both of the Precision drivers, who despite having 1 stop still to make, were perfectly placed to make a 1-2 for their team. With Nilsson out of the equation, Lee Morris was now up into 4th position, with Patrick de Wit up into 5th. De Wit was also two-stopping, and it was unclear whether he would be able to keep ahead of Tarly in 6th and Morand in 7th. In his second stint, Mikkinen became concerned about his brake wear. Driving conservatively, his lap time suffered and Puumalainen was able to catch and pass his fellow Finn. Puumalainen was now almost certain to finish in 2nd, with an outside chance of a race victory. But after Wit's second stop, he was only 3 seconds behind Puumalainen, and it seemed unlikely that the MacCorp driver would be able to fend off the world champion for the remaining 20 laps. In 6th place, Rasmus Tarly was trying to find a way around Patrick de Wit, and with a great run onto the Casino straight, Tarly completely missed the braking point, locked his brakes and ended up making hard contact with the pit wall. Jon-Erik Saxon was unsure on which side to pass Tarly, and a collision occurred, damaging Saxon's car and putting Tarly out of the race and into trouble with the race stewards. Back at the front, Bono Huis was soon onto Puumalainen's rear wing, and although Puumalainen successfully defended against Huis's first passing attempt, the young Dutchman eventually found a way through, taking over the lead with 10 laps to the finish. Meanwhile, Mikkinen's second stop placed him well behind Morris's Aero F1 car, and it seemed unlikely that the Finn would be able to reach the podium. Further behind, Dennis Hell was under pressure from both of the Twister Racing drivers, with the 3 cars desperately squabbling over the final 2 points-paying positions. After several failed attempts, Nilsson managed to find his way past through the final chicane, but a few laps later, an uncharacteristic mistake from Nilsson had the Dutchman locking his front wheels into turn 1 and stalling his engine. Making it 8 from 8, taking a clean sweep for the first half of the season, Bono Huis took his 17th career victory. Mikko Puumalainen finished in 2nd place, 8 seconds behind the race winner, and Lee Morris made an incredible comeback, achieving his first podium since 2009. The slightly disappointed Jaakko Mikkinen finished in 4th, ahead of Morgan Morand in 5th, who has now finished in the top 5 2 races in a row. Pedro Mellin made a fantastic impression on his World Championship debut, finishing in 6th for the Netrex Grand Prix team, and Patrick de Wit continued his strong form to claim 7th place. Due to his damaged car, Jon-Erik Saxon dropped to 8th during the closing stages of the race, and Aksel Kirchhoff finished a difficult Grand Prix in 9th. Blair Disley rounded off the points finishers in 10th position. Looking at the driver standings, it seems almost certain that Huis will take the 2011 championship. Although there are still 8 rounds remaining, the Dutchman has a 109-point lead over Jaakko Mikkinen in 2nd. Nilsson's DNF has dropped him into 3rd, and Puumalainen's podium has jumped him up into 4th and kept him in contention for the silver trophy. Raquel and Kirchhoff have both dropped a position, while Saxon has moved up into 7th and de Wit into 8th. Morand has re-established himself back into the top 10, tied with 10th for Tarly. In the Constructors, Petition have continued their charge, earning 35 points more than Twister this round. In 3rd place, MacCorp have significantly narrowed the gap to Twister, and Too Fast For You only picked up 1 point. Aero F1 have reclaimed their 5th position thanks to Morris's podium, and the Netrex and ATR teams have both dropped a place despite picking up a healthy points haul this round. The next round will be the British Grand Prix, and you can watch that race live as it happens. Simply go to www.psrtv.com on the 17th of July at 5:30 PM GMT. We hope you've enjoyed today's highlights. I'm Liam Jenkins, and we'll see you in a fortnight's time for round 9 of the Formula SimRacing 2011 World Championship.